It's been a while, I feel like, since I played vanilla WoW. Not like SOD, but vanilla.
Hey guys, what's up? Mad Season here, back with another video for you. Season of Discovery is out. Currently the level cap is 50, and soon players will be getting into the endgame content, and some believe it'll go down the full Classic Plus route with new raids and zones,
Video super loud compared to me?
and whatnot, especially with the release of the official timeline where
I'll be
at
over
the
here.
end for Season of Discovery, the developers tease endgame content updates, which could mean anything really, but whatever it may be, many at least want it to be within the spirit of vanilla. So whatever that means also varies from person to person, but what could be more close than what the original developers planned back before its release? So that's going to be the focus of today. Though World of Warcraft is quite a large game, it was intended to be much larger. There are quite a lot of zones, instances, and features that were planned at one point, but they were scrapped due to one reason or another, usually due to a lack of time. So in this video, we're going to show them to see what could potentially be in store for those checking out the Season of Discovery, if Classic Plus is indeed the route that they go down.
This could be a great thing, man. Like, they already have all the assets. They already have all the instances some way. They just need to, like, turn them into, like a product, like some sort of like a thing within the game, right? WoW 2 is like the biggest copium thing ever, man. One day it'll come. SOD is not Classic Plus, it's Classic Remix. I would agree. I would definitely agree. That is something that I have learned with it. We've had this conversation quite a lot before, right? I love SOD. I think SOD is great, but it's definitely not, in my eyes, what I view as Classic Plus. It is a kind of like a testing grounds for like testing boundaries of what people would like to see in a potential Classic Plus and what they wouldn't, right?
So some of these you may know of, some maybe not. Let's just start with the big one, and that's the Ashbringer quest line. One of the earliest fables within the game was that in vanilla WoW, players could obtain the iconic Ashbringer, which was once held by the leader of the Silver Hand, Alexandros Mograine, and it makes sense. From the Four Horsemen fight in Extramus, players can obtain the corrupted Ashbringer, and there exists some extra lore in the Scarlet Monastery dungeon. If you take it to the Cathedral Wing, the mobs become friendly, and you get a unique cutscene with some RP between Alexandros and his son, and even some dialogue with High Inquisitor Fairbanks, alluding that the weapon could be cleansed if you brought it to Mogrine's lost son in the Outland, which only mystified players back then because, well, the Outland obviously didn't exist. Regardless, it started on...
Oh shit, but it actually says that. Dude, it was such an ambitious project.
And scramble of players trying to unlock the secrets to cleansing the corruption. Many fake screenshots started to crop up, and players got so desperate that it would infamously lead to fishing outside of Stratholme because it was jokingly referenced in a flavor item that you looted in the Altric Valley battleground.
That is so troll, man. And so that's where you'll find the legendary sword of the Scottish High Lord Ashbringer. Ain't it amazing what you run into in an ordinary day of fishing? And people just went on a spree of fishing. A purple penguin, thank you for the 4 months.
Itself would later be referenced by Blizzard, actually, for unlocking an alternate appearance for the Legion artifact version of the weapon.
I would say so.
But combining all of this with the fact that the weapon does actually exist within the game files is not surprising.
Is it even good, though? It's not even a good weapon. I mean, to be fair, this is like a paladin weapon. It's really fast and has a proc. This would only really be kind of good for paladins, but not really. Bro, it's kind of worse than Bone Reaver's Edge.
It became one of the game's most popular
Thank you,
myths,
Floki, for the 27.
But for one reason or another, probably because casters hadn't gotten a legendary yet, they instead went with the Atius chain, and Ashbringer was kind of thrown to the wayside. As time would show, players would finally be able to obtain it during the Legion expansion through the artifact system, but this definitely has potential to see attention within the Season of Discovery. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
And Legion did really... Sorry, but I mean, I was trying to thought. Legion really felt like just the end, in a way, man. Like, we literally got to fight, like, in a way, like, fight Sargeras and send him over to, like, with Illidan and all that shit. Like, after that is like, what the hell do you even do after that? That's like the ending of WoW, man. Like, the first ending was obviously with, like, Lich King, right? Okay, we defeat the Lich King, but then Sargeras. Like, what's even after Sargeras? Didn't Shadowlands feel more like the end? It ruined the lore so much for me. Did I play Legion? I played Legion at the very end. Like, at the very last patch. That's when I got into play it a little bit. I mean, I know I'd seen the cinematics and shit, right? But I played at the very end of Legion.
It's certainly opinionated. I think that there's definitely weight to the argument that by giving players such an iconic weapon, it's no longer iconic. And we saw that with Legion, with an Ashbringer around every corner. But maybe making the chain extremely expensive and time-consuming and difficult to finish could potentially be a way to circumvent that. Maybe you can make it a time-limited system like the Scarab Lord, so only a very few lucky players per server would be the recipients.
I don't know.
Next, we have a zone that you probably know about. That's Mount Hyjal.
Dude, the amount of times I tried to go here, man, as a kid, and I saw that, like, you know, dungeon raid portal with the Onyxia's Lair entrance. I was like, oh my god, what did they put in here? What was it? You know, I like geeking out so hard about it.
So in northern Kalimdor, there's quite a large zone, but when you mouse over it, you'll find that it doesn't have a name. And the closest that players were able to get to it was on a flight path.
There's a lot of zones like this.
With some tricky wall jumping and some persistence, you'd find a zone that seems fully crafted geographically, but just lacking mobs and NPCs. The one exception being the infamous Guardians of Blizzard, which were these infernals that they haphazardly threw about the area that would insta-kill any trespassers to sort of guard the area.
I've never seen this.
It was a very poor band-aid fix, because players could quite easily sneak past them and explore this never-before-seen zone. Somehow,
I think it's kind of cool you could explore it, though. Like, I don't know, it's like there's nothing there, it's like just an empty zone, but it's so cool.
Highlights would be the crater where Archimonde landed in Warcraft 3. Intriguingly, you also have a clone of the Onyxia raid entrance, clearly showing that there were some plans for another raid in vanilla. And finally, of course, the bones of Archimonde hanging off the World Tree, laying in the same spot where he was vanquished in the RTS. This zone would be unfinished for all of vanilla, and would first be repurposed in the Battle of Hyjal raid in the Burning Crusade.
And what a shit raid! Oh my god! I cannot believe I actually said I was excited to do this raid before TBC Classic came out. Because I never did it back in the day. I'm like, damn, man, it's gonna be so cool doing a Hyjal. Oh, it was such a shit raid, man. Oh my god. And then if you wiped on a boss, you had to do all 8 waves of trash again. Holy crap.
Later, of course, in Cataclysm, where it was properly finished with quests, mobs, and NPCs, and players are now enjoying that in Cataclysm Classic, actually. As far as potential content for Classic Plus is concerned, though, this one definitely has a lot of it, and it's usually one of the first zones that people think of for new content in vanilla.
Who has played on a 255 level private server with Hyjal leveling roads? I know I have. I have played a lot of those, man. There was 255 custom servers with a bunch of... You start at Hyjal and you work your way all the way through the zone, and it's just like tons of mobs, and you just AoE everything. It was so stupid. You did as well? Dude, that was sick, man.
After Hyjal, I of course have to follow up with Kazan. Most know this as the introductory level 70 raid for the Burning Crusade, and then also the remake in Legion. But Kazan was supposed to be in the vanilla version of the game, and it was ultimately scrapped due to time constraints. And as John Statz described in his book, The World of Warcraft Diary, there were also challenges with level design. The portal lies dormant in vanilla World of Warcraft, as there's no dungeon ID associated with it, and the closest that players ever got was through the creation of Atiesh in Nexramas, after collecting its shards from the various bosses and defeating Quel'Thalas. Aside from its high-end stats, upon use, it created a portal straight to Kazan for its wielder and their raid to use, so clearly there were plans for it to be implemented in some way in vanilla.
Dude, and Caverns of Time as well. Like, bro, man.
Although the instance itself didn't exist, that didn't stop players from exploring its outskirts. Off to the side is what is known as the Kazan Crypts, which is completely devoid of mobs and NPCs, but...
Dude, I I will bet my ass that they're dude. They are. If they're not using Kazan crypts for anything in SOD, I will be so surprised.
Nonetheless, is quite extensive, containing many catacombs and corridors, and an underwater room called the Pool of Upside Down Sinners.
It's perfect.
Obviously, there were big plans here. Some speculate a dungeon, others even another raid, some just a questing area. Blizzard did eventually make partial use out of this area
with
the Legion expansion, but whether it be the crypts or even the raid itself, it's certainly one of the big unfinished areas just asking to be finished for Season of Discovery. Azshara is a zone infamous for neglect, aside from a handful of quests, a molten core reputation that sends you into the middle of nowhere once a week for a douse, and also a world boss.
Dude, I never did the douse, man, okay? I was that guy in the guild. I just let everybody else do it, dude. I never did that quest chain ever, man.
There's really not a lot going on here. In fact, back in the day, because of this and its resulting low traffic, it was one of the more popular bot farms because they would have less of a chance of being found and reported by the players. However, adventurous players with a keen eye would uncover the remnants of the Azshara Crater battleground, similar to the Warsong entrance on the border between Ashenville and the Barrens. You'll find abandoned Horde and Alliance encampments, which would serve as the hub that held the faction NPCs and vendors, and also the portal to zone into the actual battleground. Not much is known of this battleground other than an abandoned map file, and that it was going to be MOBA in style.
Bro, what was that? Tales of the Past, that mission, where they like stand on these two little pillars and shit.
There was a mod for Warcraft 3 named Dota that was becoming extremely popular. As it turns out, popular enough that they would make a standalone version of the game called Dota 2, and eventually escape the grasp of Blizzard through a lengthy legal battle. And though Blizzard tried their hand at this game mode officially in 2015 with the release of Heroes of the Storm, their earliest attempt, if you would call it that, was the Azshara Crater, which would be a third-person MMO take on the genre, possibly similar to Smite.
Dude, Smite is goated though. I played Smite in the beta access version of Smite, and if you got up to level 30 in the beta, you would get like a corrupted Umia skin. And I'm so sad I didn't farm enough. I got to like level 27 or something in the beta. I should have just farmed 3 more levels and I would have had like the super sick skin, man. It was like the Umia beta skin Smite. Yeah, where he's like a demon lord, man. You could have gotten that skin, man.
For those who have played that game. That's not the only missing piece from the zone, though. Back during the pre-release, the more adventurous players would, of all things, find the remnants of the Dark Portal buried in the waters off of the coast, which may seem strange at first, but back during the alpha of the game, they just used this Dark Portal as a placeholder for dungeon entrances.
Yeah, that's
funny enough, though. Back then, because this wasn't as widely known, this would turn Azshara into one of the many hotspots for exploration by players who thought that the Outland secretly existed. Maybe one of those people trying to figure out how to cleanse their Ashbringer. But regardless of all of that, at some point, there were plans for a dungeon in the waters of Azshara, but for unknown reasons, again, probably time constraints, it was abandoned. So, certainly something they have an opportunity to revive in the Season of Discovery and actually give more purpose to a pretty barren zone.
Yeah, a lot of these things could be
instances, our next destination lies in Stormwind.
Yep.
In the western part of the city, players can find the Stormwind Stockade, which is a prison overrun by rebellious Defias gang members. Although it's quite simple, it's one of the more iconic and memorable dungeons from vanilla. Most people have run it.
Memorable? Okay, I mean, I don't even know. Stockade is not really fun, okay? It's just, I don't know about that. But it has a lot of XP, though, lots of quests.
At some point. But did you know that to the east, there's another stockade? It's blocked off by a gate, but if you're able to slip past it, you'll find a portal, and this one actually works. This is the Stockade Raid, as it's known.
Wait, you could actually enter the... Really? I didn't know this.
Dungeon, but just much bigger and much easier to get lost in since everything looks the same, pretty much. This version holds 2 floors of the rooms and hallways that you can find in the Stockade dungeon. It is completely empty of mobs, of course, but interesting to
Really?
see that it was finished enough to actually exist. Now, some would say that this doesn't really have a lot of potential for Classic Plus because
I didn't know that you could actually enter this. That's actually crazy. I knew it was there, but yeah, I mean, isn't this? But how do Horde get here then? If that was the case, right? I can't wait for them to bring all these things in SOD plus. Yeah.
because it's unfair to the Horde. And my response to that is, first off, fuck the Horde. But two, I would actually make the argument that this is exactly what the spirit of vanilla is. Vanilla is quite known for not being hyper obsessed with balance and fairness. I mean, just look at the 2 exclusive classes. Maybe a
Yeah, but giving like a whole raid, if it was to be a raid to like only one faction, that's kind of like a little bit too far.
good middle ground would be that if it is a raid or a dungeon, give the Horde an equivalent somewhere in Orgrimmar, but still keep them completely unique. Unique bosses, unique layout, quests, loot. I think that would be way more Spirit of Vanilla than anything else that they could do.
I'm still waiting for the Alcus Island raid to free Varian Rin in SOD Remix Plus. So, SOD Remix Plus, Extra Edition, New Version 2.0.
And it also encourages replayability since both factions offer more unique experiences. But we're not leaving Stormwind yet. I, of course, have to mention this gate right here.
This will never happen. This will never happen.
Between the Trade District and Old Town,
no shot.
Kind of in a dead-end area, you'll find an instance portal that's gated off.
Yeah.
It's just left players wondering
never gonna happen.
What plans they had for it. But as it turns out, what you're looking at is one of the earlier attempts at...
I don't think there will ever be like housing like this in WoW. No.
Player housing. Not the first, as evidenced by the screenshot from the alpha, which perfectly encapsulates exactly why housing wouldn't work in World of Warcraft. Yeah. Every area has a purpose, whether it be a questing hub, a spawn location for enemies. Giving players the ability to drop houses would be disruptive, assuming that they behave, which they of course won't, because the first thing they'll do is plop it down on
garrisons,
critical hubs. For player housing to work, the world has to be built for it. A good example here would be Star Wars Galaxies, where the planets were absolutely massive, but also mostly empty to support player buildings, and not just houses, and not even neighborhoods, but entire cities with shuttle ports and respawn points and strip clubs. But because the world wasn't built for it in WoW, the only way for it to work really is for it to be instanced, and the developers realized this as early as vanilla, as you can see.
I mean, listen, man, maybe in some version of retail WoW somehow, but in like a classic setting, I don't think that would work. I don't think they should touch these things, let it be a pipe dream, something people can make their own scenarios about. Either way what Blizzard does, they won't like it. I can see what you mean with that for sure as well. Like the idea behind something, what could have been between like what would be it's a weird thing, right? Turtle WoW used most of what is mentioned in this video. I do think though, like for a potential like actual Classic Plus or whatever the heck, if that were something they were to do one day, all these things are things that could be used in a way, right? For those kind of stuff. It's a hard sell though for a lot of people, especially classic players, because a lot of classic players are very particular with what they like, right, and what they want. They should open the portal and let you enter a room, and all there is a blank canvas. Oh.
Portal would zone you into a housing district in Stormwind, where presumably you could purchase or rent your own residence, possibly decorate it, possibly invite party or guild members over. Maybe a good RP spot for guild meetings or something. But as was shown in the Warlords of Draenor, this system also has its issues, such as the world becoming empty and feeling more like a single-player game, which is very anti-vanilla in my opinion. So, as far as Classic Plus is concerned, I think that it would be a bad call, and I think because of that, it probably won't be a thing. But I wanted to mention it anyway, since I feel like it's too big to leave out. A remnant of one of the very first attempts at player housing in the game. No one can really...
The true classic Andes is one to fresh 6 times a year. Yeah. Turtle WoW has a few thousand people playing, Blizzard creating content and paying devs so that many people only pay a fund they sub. It's not worth it. It's a really hard sell. Yeah, it's a very, very difficult sell, right? FF14 versions of housing is fun, IMO. Man, I never really, like, got super deep into like Final Fantasy and shit like that, but a lot of people always say they have a great amount of like really cool content actually. But I personally never really got super into it. Who knows? Maybe one day I will, but you know, for the time being, I'm not.
Agree on what Classic Plus is, but
Turtle WoW has tons of people playing on it. I don't know how many people are actually playing on Turtle WoW, but yeah, I don't know. Frankly, I actually have no clue how many people there actually is.
What I commonly see is a level cap increase, and
it's like 3 to 4k at peak. Yeah, see that. Then if Blizzard would want to like make something similar, it would have to be like a bigger thing, right? But yeah, other than rating, Final Fantasy 14 is meh.
The level cap increase probably means new quests, new zones, and preferably, in my opinion, within the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor, since I think they're a pretty big part of Vanilla's identity.
Yeah.
So in this case, real estate will be pretty important, so areas like Hyjal would be prime for this, but there are more. One of the big ones, second to Hyjal, can be found on the northern end of the Eastern Plaguelands.
Right? Yeah.
These two zones would eventually become Quel'Thalas, the Eversong Woods and Ghostlands in the Burning Crusade expansion. At the border here, you'll find some fallen trees blocking the path with a high elf named Add-on.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of these things that like is marked on the map, to be fair, is used in later expansions like Gilneas or Quel'Thalas, Hyjal, Uldum, stuff like that, right?
Of course, referring that this area is indeed planned for an add-on or expansion, the Burning Crusade.
I actually didn't know that.
So unlike Hyjal, this area doesn't actually exist physically in the game. Well, at least it's not crafted and fleshed out to the extent of Hyjal. If you get past the fallen trees, you will find a small little elven hut.
Oh.
Apparently, Quel'Thalas wasn't as huge of an empire as we thought.
Wait, really?
But aside from that, it's just all unfinished flat plains.
I didn't know
but
this.
Looking at the map here, this is a ton of land for 2 or 3 entire zones that they could create in their own unique way. But next...
It will be difficult to do though. Like those zones that are already made as well in a way in future expansion, that's also difficult because then it's like a different take on it, right? But I don't know. The Emerald Dream. Yeah, that's the big one.
We have the Emerald Dream. This is another really old myth from the game, and one that's been flirted with here and there in Legion and Dragonflight. But the earliest version exists in Vanilla World of Warcraft, though it never saw the light of day. It's referenced in-game in a few areas. A protagonist from the RTS series, Malfurion Stormrage, is residing in it through all of Vanilla, and the players are able to have a dialogue with him via the Scepter of the Shifting Sands questline from Ahn'Qiraj.
Yeah, that's cool.
As far as its purpose is concerned, it could really be anything. It could be another zone, it could be a raid, or a dungeon.
Yeah, I don't think Blizzard is gonna put that much effort into making new content for Classic like that. In many ways, like I can definitely agree with you with that. Like especially with like how many Classic players literally just want a fresh vanilla with a progressive server. Like it's such an easy sell, man. Like I almost think genuinely if they were to just say, "Hey guys, 5th of March 2025, fresh progressive vanilla, new servers, new progressive stuff with progressive itemization," people would be way more hype almost than like there being like a "Hey guys, Classic Plus coming out." Because people would be so worried about the word Classic Plus because there's so much tied to that. I almost think people would just be more happy knowing there would be a progressive vanilla fresh. Let's say 5th of March 2025, right? I don't know, maybe I'm cooked for that, but I think people would almost be more excited about that. Unpopular opinion, fresh is not the way. Look at the Cal. Well, there's a difference between a World of Warcraft Wrath fresh and a vanilla fresh, right? There's a little bit of a difference between that.
It really depends on what they envision Classic Plus to be, again, if it's even going to exist at all. Questlines hold the potential for unfinished content, certainly, and there are quite a few to be found in vanilla.
Yeah, there's a lot.
One of the more mysterious ones, and loosely related to the Emerald Dream, is the...
Wasn't this finished in the Scepter of the Shifting Sands, though? I think it kind of did conclude in that quest chain. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it did.
The Aranicus questline, where after killing the final boss of the Sunken Temple, players can loot the Essence of Aranicus trinket, which upon use produces a green AoE fart cloud, and also a rage whisper like how you get in PvP. This opens up a quest to an NPC named Atharius in the Swamp of Sorrows, who then sends you to another guy in Winter Spring where it just abruptly ends, and taking your essence in the process, so you don't want to do this, especially considering how rare good trinkets are in vanilla.
It's not a good
community
trinket,
manager back in 2005 teased that the questline was being worked on, and it had promise, but unfortunately, for unknown reasons, it never saw the light of day. Across over the sea, on Kalimdor, we have a similar situation with Uldum. First, though, paying a visit to the Uldaman dungeon. At the end, players can complete the Platinum Discs quest, which gives a lot of lore of the Titans that approximately 1% of the player base actually read.
I was about to say, nobody's ever actually read this. There's no shot.
It's really, really long, but even more unknown, and there's nothing to tell you this, but this opens up another quest scouting out a giant locked gate.
I read it. All right, tell me exactly what it says. No, listen, man. Most people do not read that, okay? There's no way. But it's cool that it's there, okay?
The option giants patrolling nearby. There is cool. This is Uldum, another area that was planned for Vanilla WoW. Talking to the Stonewatcher through the quest, he'll tell you that he won't grant you access without an item called the Plates of Uldum, which could possibly have been a key for attunement, much like the Drakefire Amulet for Onyxia. And reporting back to Ironforge, the Explorers League will tell you to come back soon, and that Uldum beckons. Well, as it turned out, soon meant 2010, during the Cataclysm, where it was finally finished and turned into a full-fledged zone with quests and dungeons and raid. Next to Hyjal, and what would eventually become Eversong and Ghostlands, this is definitely a contender for endgame content updates. And in the same zone, not too far away, we of course have the Caverns of Time, where the possibilities really are limitless. Obviously, the instance portals are inactive in vanilla here. But this is when you really start to realize just how much content was originally intended for vanilla.
It was actually nuts. But in a way, man, I think having those kind of like unfinished things in the game is kind of cool, man. I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting, right? And having them be fleshed out would be cool, but man, it's Classic Plus is such a risk, man. Even, I mean, we can see that with Sod as well, right? It's really a hit or miss with people.
This area, as players,
yeah, it has a sense of wonder, like where could this lead? Where is this, right? All that stuff.
And out in the Burning Crusade is a hub for crucial moments within the game's world that don't line up with the current timeline, whether that be the opening of the Dark Portal prior to the events of the game, or the culling of Stratholme, or the battle for Hyjal. It holds many memorable dungeons and raids.
I don't think Classic Plus will ever happen. In the way that, like, I'm trying to explain what Classic Plus is, I don't think it will either, no. I don't think they're gonna do that. That's like a, a pipe dream.
Travel is involved. The options are limitless, really, so
it's too much a risk, yeah, I think so.
Maybe there'll even be a portal to stop BFA and Shadowlands from happening, or from the developers ruining the 2019 line of Classic by releasing gameplay destroying level boosts, and later the WoW token.
I mean, let's be honest, man. Okay, at this point with Wrath and everything like that, man, did the WoW token even destroy much of it? I don't really think it did. I'm gonna be real, dude. Okay, I don't even think it did, dude. I mean, it is what it is, right? When Classic was launched, my first playthrough was about Anons, when the two friends who played it with me had read it all in order to do the quest. It was an experience, but never again. Yeah, people don't play games like that nowadays as well, in the same way, right? The amount of swipers and GD gears, but bro, even before the WoW tokens, like in Wrath, I think it came out, like, dude, it was already fucked. It was already so bad, right? Blizzard added WoW token because Wrath players wanted it. In a way, yeah. It legalized gold buying. I would say it just made GDGPs worse. Maybe, yeah, I mean, it probably didn't aid to it, let's be honest, but yeah.
Told you so, by the way.
I just don't think it's like, that wasn't really what broke the game in that way. I wouldn't say.
Anyways, next we have Grim Batol. Back on over to the Eastern Kingdoms. In the Wetlands will be a gauntlet of elite dragon
Didn't someone buy Gressel for 214k? Yeah, in vanilla, classic vanilla 2019, there was like that big incident where like someone bought Gresselia and then converted to like real money or whatever the heck. If he were to buy that gold, it was calculated to be somewhere like, I don't remember the number, like $10,000 or something ridiculous.
And at the end, a giant locked gate. The War of the Three Hammers, which were between the Bronzebeards, the Dark Irons, and the Wild Hammer, had concluded, with the Bronzebeards as the victor. And while the Dark Irons got drunk and made their home in the Blackrock Mountain, the Wild Hammer ventured north, past the gates of Dun Gaz, and founded their own kingdom in the mountain of Grim Batol, which they were later forced out of after it had been cursed during an attack by the Dark Iron. One of Thorison's sorcerers, Modgood, had cursed the cities for shadows to attack all who entered, and though she met her demise, her curse remained. Eventually, the fortress was seized by the Dragonmaw clan and used as a prison for Alexstrasza before she got breast reduction surgery. As players would find out, this would be another area that would finally be finished during the Cataclysm expansion, where the Twilight's Hammer eventually took up residence. But as far as vanilla was concerned, this was another really big piece of unfinished business that the players could only speculate on what was held inside.
But it was so epic. I don't know, man. I think I'm just, maybe I'm a loser, but I just love man, I was like, man, what's over there, dude? All those big elites, man. Like, what the heck is down there, man? That's crazy.
And last, but certainly not least, we have Gilneas, another Cataclysm entry here. But on the southern end of the Silverpine Forest, we have Gilneas, the home of the furries. The forces of Erigel have a strong presence within the forest. They're humans turned werewolf by way of a curse, and not just within the lore, but actual gameplay elements with the inhabitants of Shadowprey Village roaming the town in their human form by day and transforming into elite worgen at night.
This is cool.
One of the few areas in the game that actually changes depending on the time of day, in fact. If you manage
I didn't know this before, like a year back or something.
To sneak past the gate, you'll find an empty chasm awaiting you. It's not quite as extravagant as the Cataclysm version, I'd say, but another one of the big mystery areas in vanilla that could definitely have some potential here. But that's about it for the most major stuff, at least.
It's
a lot of this stuff has obviously been finished primarily in BC or Cataclysm, so if they were to return to it in Season of Discovery, I think they would have to be careful to change them up quite a bit, especially with Cataclysm Classics release. I think that it would be wise to maintain separation.
Dude, yeah, that's actually a good point as well, man. A lot of those things we have in Cata already now.
Agree on what Classic Plus is, but from what I've seen, a lot of it is that it should be an alternate timeline that splits away from BC and goes down its own route. So seeing these areas finished with, quote, the spirit of vanilla touch that people talk about could definitely have a lot of potential. Really, how closer can you get than to finish content that was originally made by the original developers back in 1999 to 04? So considering that, if they do go down the Classic Plus route, it wouldn't at all surprise me that at least a few of the things in this video would see some attention in later phases.
That's a big if, though.
Even if not, though, I hope that this video was at least interesting.
It was fun.
And give you a peek at just how much bigger this game could have been.
Yep.
But aside from that, like the video if you liked it, because I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
I mean, I don't know. It's a fun conversation to have. I think it's really... I like talking about WoW. I like talking about like vanilla world and stuff like that. But I don't know. I really highly doubt we'll ever get like an actual Classic Plus like that, though. I don't know, man. I think it's such a risky move. It's so difficult to make well. Like, it's hard, man. It is really hard. If I remember correctly, remember as a kid I would swim to areas and run to areas that had high level mobs, and I would always be like, wow. Yeah, I did that too. I definitely did that too, man. Conversation, more like dreaming. I mean, it is kind of like a pipe dream for a lot of people, right? This whole Classic Plus thing, you know, revamped zones and everything like that. I think Sawdust's been great fun. Will they ever do like a Classic Plus like that? I really highly doubt it. I really highly doubt it. Another big one was the Dalaran Bobble. That one was big too as well, yeah. I don't know. It's fun talking about. I like it. It's an interesting conversation, right?